In right now, joining me is Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire. She is the top Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And as part of this trip, the next stop, Senator, will be to Qatar, which is the country offering to give President Trump this, what could be the most expensive gift any president has ever received, of this luxury jet he says he will use as Air Force One. This has raised a whole host of legal, ethical, and security concerns, and you've actually reached out to the White House counsel's office about this. What do you see here?
Well, first of all, I think it's an important trip to the Middle East. The Middle East is a central ally, those countries, for the United States. Unfortunately, while I think the economic agreement is a good thing, he seems to be missing the two biggest threats in the Middle East. One is from Iran and the terrorism that they continue to support, their effort to get a nuclear weapon, and the other is the war in Gaza. This is an opportunity to engage the other Arab nations in helping to see what the long-term future is to address Gaza and Israel. With respect to Qatar and the plane, I think there are serious constitutional questions about this, but there are also questions about national security. And sadly, the president doesn't seem to be too concerned about national security. He's been willing to allow his Secretary of Defense to engage in classified discussions over unclassified channels. He has, again, looking at accepting this plane without thinking about what the implications would be. We don't know what kind of bugs might be put in that aircraft. We know that Air Force One is more than just a plane. It's also got secure communications. It needs to be refueled in the air, as so many of your guests have said this morning, because of the national security implications should the president have to stay in the air. And also, there's a fully equipped medical operating room in Air Force One, and none of those features are available in this plane, and to put those in would be significant costs and raise real concerns. But then there's the other question of corruption, and I think that's what the American people should also be concerned about. This is a president who has, between his crypto coin scheme, his investments in Qatar for a golf course, taking this plane, it all raises questions about who his commitment really belongs to. Does it belong to the American people and the United States, or does it belong to himself and all of the dollars that he can bring in to himself and his family?
Is there something that Congress can do about this?
Well, I think right now we're looking at options. One of the things that I think we're going to hear is that there will be holds placed on any judicial nominees from moving forward until we get some answers from the Attorney General. I think we're looking at whether there's other legislation. I would hope that we would see more of our Republican colleagues stepping up. We saw Senator Paul raising concerns about this. I think everybody should be worried about what the implications of this are.
No, then that would be news if holds on political appointees in any regard is a move that you and your colleagues will be making. That would be a significant move by one of the few, I guess, being in the minority that Democrats can do right now. Senator, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you sticking around to speak with us on the heels of this trip. Thank you, Senator Jeanne Shaheen. We're following a lot of breaking news.